And by that, I'm going to introduce Evan Johnson. He's been working at LastPass before. Now he's at Cloudflare. And again, another talk I'm looking forward to, a little bit about password managers. Evan?
Thank you. Hello. Cool. Okay, so my talk is called Evaluating a Password Manager, but it should say lots of password managers and how people should evaluate them. It's kind of supposed to be give people a holistic view on password managers. So about me, I work at Cloudflare as a security systems engineer. So I wear a lot of different random hats there. I'm kind of the company's de facto AppSec person. Besides that, I like hunt vulnerabilities in our products and our infrastructure and everything. And then I kind of either fix them or come up with plans to fix them or push them off on someone else who can fix them. And I've kind of been working on the website too as well. Since we were just talking about accounts and account management, I rewrote all of the account management stuff for the Cloudflare website and how it does sessions, how it does all these different cryptographic tokens like CSRF tokens and stuff. And I also wrote PassGo, which is a password manager written in Go, and it's command line based. The whole reason I wrote it was because I wanted a password manager with more modern crypto for some systems things I do, like I use it for protecting my SSH keys and whatnot. Oh, and I previously worked at LastPass as an engineer. I worked there for a year and wrote a lot of code. So if you use LastPass and you like it, I helped with that. Okay, so trigger warning, we're going to talk about password managers. And the reason I put this slide is because password managers online are super polarizing. If you've ever read a Hacker News or Reddit thread or Twitter thread about people talking about password managers, it generally goes nowhere. And it's just kind of a lot of people arguing. And basically everybody in those threads is an expert, and they should be the ones speaking.
You're on the right place now.
So a lot of people love LastPass. They loved KeePass. They loved 1Password. They hated all those same things. Different people hate LastPass. Different people hate KeePass, KeePassX. And that's not what this talk is about. This talk is supposed to be really general and something that's unbiased, and you can kind of step back from what you like and what you don't like and kind of be able to evaluate what is good. And so I'm not going to be throwing bad password managers under the bus yet, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so about the talk, we're going to I have a couple goals. So I want to define the properties that all password managers that regular people should have. This talk is mostly geared towards regular people. Point out some things that are really good that password managers, that some of them do, and talk about some technical details about some of them as well. We'll dive into a little technical stuff. And so which password managers? So if you're unfamiliar, which maybe you are or you're not if you're in this room, 1Password is like, I would describe it as the Apple juggernaut of password managers. It was for a long time considered really Apple-centric, and but great password manager. LastPass, Windows and Linux people liked it. These two are probably the oldest. The two at the top, LastPass and 1Password. And LastPass is also got really popular. The Android UX was really great for. They really did well on Android and Linux and Windows, and kind of not Apple. for a while, and then there's Dashlane. Dashlane is pretty pricey, and they've raised a ton of venture capital. I think I just checked before this talk, and it was like 52 million. They've raised a Series C, which is an absurd amount of money for password managers. Keeper, which is from it, I first heard of it at LastPass, and it kind of got its start on mobile, I think, and it kind of developed from there, and they took off from mobile. Then there's KeePass, KeePassX. These are the whole KeePass environment, like ecosystem, really confuses me, and I don't fully understand it. There's lots of them. And then PasswordBox, rest in peace. They got end of life. They got bought by Intel a couple years ago, and they just got end of life. Pass is a command line password manager written by this really good systems programmer guy. It's written in Bash. It's Git backed and GPG based. And then, so I put these two at the bottom. These are the most interesting. Excel spreadsheets and password journals. These are things people might be using that we want to compare all of these together. So this is kind of a generic design diagram of it might be hard to see, high-level parts of a password manager. So I put 4 of them, and there might not be 4 of them, and maybe some of them are more tightly coupled than others. You have the cloud servers where if the password manager syncs, you have servers that the password managers or the passwords are stored on. Then you have kind of the back-end core of a password manager. So if you use 1Password, there's a thick client there, and LastPass, it's all extension-based. And this is the part that talks to these servers and gets down the passwords and decrypts them. And then you have the application core integration. This is the UI, all the features that are built on top of this decryption, all the junk that gets decrypted, all the features that you see. And then I don't know why I put this last one. It's not really a part of the password manager. Just the application that the password goes into. That's a final resting place for the password. Goes into hopefully the correct application. And like I said, some password managers might have all 4 of these. Some might not. So the first part is the servers. And this is going to be missing from things that don't sync. And the important thing here when you're evaluating a password manager, the first is really obvious, that your passwords should not be on the server in plain text. And there are actually some like enterprise password management solutions where it is in plain text. And it's not just enterprise. These are like really big business, like 100 million in revenue, doing password management that I've heard of, and it's kind of insane. But what else should be encrypted here? It's everybody kind of does it different. All the password managers. So the big 2 things that generally differ is some password managers don't encrypt URLs, and some other ones don't encrypt usernames. And I don't think there's a right answer here about whether or not that's good or bad, or I think there's room for improvement for both of them, but I don't really see a huge reason why having everything encrypted, or I'm not sure how to weigh this. And so I came up with 2 tick boxes for evaluating what's stored, and it's whether it's encrypted, which pretty much all password managers encrypt what they have on their server, and then the passwords that are on the server, and then whether or not they encrypt all site data. So if a URL isn't encrypted, then they wouldn't get that second tick box here. The password manager wouldn't. So what else is on this slide? All right, and you generally have a back-end part of an application that does all this heavy lifting of fetching encrypted blob data and decrypting it. And this is pretty boring. That all it does is kind of consume a API, get a bunch of data, prompt you for your password, and decrypt it. Sometimes, so this is where most of the crypto lives. So it'll, all the crypto primitive choices live here. And I guess that's significant because all the crypto lives there. And all the features that users see, autofills passwords, contains all the bells and whistles, contains user interface. So this might manifest itself in different ways. Like autofill, most password managers will have an autofill feature where you just press a button and it pastes your password in, or maybe not paste, maybe it'll just modify the DOM on an HTML page. And that all lives here. And all the flows of generating a new password and saving it and then communicating with this backend process that then talks to the API to save this new encrypted blob. That all starts at this layer, user-facing. And then one of the most important features that you'd see from that users see is security details about their passwords. So if they're reusing a lot of passwords, if their weak passwords are everywhere in their password vault, good password managers will tell users that they have bad password hygiene, and they might be really loud about it. Okay, so what actually matters? And I think this breaks down into two things: what features should all password managers have, and what are security critical and need actual technical eyes to look at and kind of evaluate. And I think the first one is more about usability, and the second one is security, because that's kind of all there is in this world. Okay, so what should they have? High level, really fast. The most important features that I came up with is password manager or password generator to create different kinds of passwords. If a password manager doesn't have that, it's pretty bad. Just duplicate password finder, finding security details like we mentioned. If you have duplicate passwords, if you have weak passwords, your password manager should notify you. Strong crypto. This is an interesting one, which we'll talk about in a minute. But your password manager should have strong crypto. Just having crypto doesn't really help. It has to be strong, and not all password managers are vetted as such. And I think you won't have as big of a problem with the big names that I listed at the beginning, but there are hundreds of password managers, and once you get out in the weeds and you may find something that works for you, it's kind of scary if nobody's actually looked at the technical details under the hood. And then import export, you should be able to jump ship if you hate your password manager. And the most important one that I think in 2016 is a password manager having good mobile user experience. And what did I put on this slide? Password managers with a mobile. Yeah, so in 2016, like, so many users are mobile first, and that is getting more and more prevalent. And if you just download KeePass XYZ and it's somebody just forked KeePass and made some changes and you can't actually use it on your phone, even if it's really cool and open source, it like is not going to help you that much. And so here is like a Snapchat sign up screen, and I picked Snapchat because I kind of picture Snapchat as kind of the next, well, it's already arrived, the next social network. And I also picked it because at the beginning of Twitter, people were like, this is really stupid, and it kind of became something really big. And so people signing up on Twitter, they might choose a stupid password. Like that, my first password on Snapchat was really horrific, I'll tell you. But like, who knows, Snapchat might be really important like a year from now. People might be getting their news from news clips on Snapchat, who knows? And so if a password manager can't reach their mobile users, that's really bad. Also, just outside of password managers, authentication on mobile devices is just atrocious. People have tried like federated credentials in apps, like Pokemon Go came out and they had the Google sign up, and besides the fact that like you could sign up with your pre-existing Google account, and besides the fact that the permissions were way too permissive on what you actually allowed Pokemon Go to do, it was just bad UX. Like, you had to completely re-enter your username and password. You didn't get anything for free. So password managers are the best we have in mobile UX right now. So this kind of shows off on Uber, who uses the AgileBits. The 1Password, they have a way for apps to integrate with a password manager. And I feel strongly that this is, if your password manager does not have this option, if you use iOS. So obviously it's different for Android, but on iOS, if you're not taking your password manager seriously and you are working at a password manager company, like, this is super important. This little, it's in the red, not my email blurred out, but the little lock icon, that will allow you to just click that and paste your password into the password field, or it's not paste. I'm not sure about the details, but it allows you to get this icon and utilize a password manager from inside of an app. And the other thing in mobile is browser support. And while most apps have not figured this out, most password managers have figured browser support out, and pretty much all of them will support different. Pretty much all password managers support this way to be presented in a Safari browser, which is good. And so the important reason why I mention mobile and really focus on mobile is I think it's the way to win an argument on the internet, since that's the only place good important arguments are fought, with people who use Excel spreadsheets and password journals and stuff. I got in an argument with somebody on Slack channel, and this guy said all of his passwords were too sensitive for a password manager, and he could never trust software. And he kept an Excel spreadsheet, or he kept something that he refused to tell me because it was too high security. And I was like, first of all, this is just absurd. But second, like, the mobile case just, I feel like, completely trounces his argument, because who knows where this guy will be. He might not be at home when he signs up for Uber or for Snapchat. And if he doesn't choose a good password, that's like bad password hygiene, and his system fails. The scary part of password managers is go to the Apple App Store and type in password manager, and there are like hundreds of results, and who knows what these things are doing. Okay, so what features actually need security evaluation? And I think after last week, we all know browser filling logic needs security evaluation. Integration with between the browser extension and whatever background. No, integration between like what the user is doing and how the user interface talks to the back-end system that decrypts all the passwords. Because in Dashlane and 1Password, it's they talk over a WebSocket, and it's not tightly coupled. Like different password managers all have a different software architecture, where some are more monolithic, where it might only be extension based, but some really rely on this thick client on your machine. Crypto primitives. So this is all came from browser world, and crypto primitives don't exist that well in JavaScript. So basically everybody just copies and pastes in their crypto primitives that they need. And who knows who's looked at these? I have no idea. And then HTTP headers, random regular AppSec kind of things. So how to dive in and look under the hood. So the parts you're going to be looking at is the API, the crypto, the browser extension. And if you are an AppSec person and you've always wanted to learn about how to dive in, we're about to look at it quickly. So here is an example of how you could examine the API for LastPass and how it works. So for LastPass, PasswordBox, most of the monolithic extensions where they don't have this client on the machine, LastPass does now, but all the logic's still in the extension. You can just go to this extension screen in Chrome, Chrome://extensions, and load up the background page and start diving in. You have to click there's a checkbox in the top corner that says enabled. You have to click that, then you can click background.html, and you can start diving into the technical details of how the extension communicates with the API for a lot of extensions, actually. And here is my LastPass vault, and you can see once you click background.html, it'll pop up a Chrome debugging window, and there's a network tab. You click the network tab, and you can see all the requests that are being made, and you just click on them, and you can see all the technical details. It's amazing. And apps that don't do this, it's a little harder to kind of dive in and reverse engineer, because you have to reverse engineer a thick client instead. Who knows, like maybe they do like public key pinning inside their thick client, and it's a little harder to dive in. This is really nice because Chrome gives you a debugger. It's amazing. Next is examining the crypto, and pretty much all password managers have pretty similar crypto primitives that they've chosen. Most of them have chosen like AES-CBC and similar encryption and PBK-DF2, SHA-1 for deriving a key. And I think this is mostly because of difficulty getting primitives into the JavaScript world where they might need them and whatever. But this, I think that the best practice now is to use an AAD cipher. And it's really hard. One challenge that you kind of realize when you're working as a software engineer on a password manager is, let's say tomorrow you wanted to switch from AES-CBC mode to a different crypto primitive. Let's say you wanted to go way back and way weaker and pick DES, which we don't use anymore, and please don't ever use. And it's really hard because you can't just flip a switch and everybody's passwords are encrypted with something different. Moving forward is not easy. Once you've chosen a primitive, it's really sticky. Why? Who said why? Why is it sticky? just because, so you encrypt all your passwords. You have 1,000 passwords in your vault, and we chose, let's just pick something really weak, DES, and we want to move to AES. And you would have to download new code from whatever update process the extension has and the client has, and that all your things have to be decrypted and encrypted again, or you can wrap them, and that's kind of weird, where you start encrypting a ciphertext, and it's just kind of a not an easy process.
Let me just give an additional answer to that, is that remember that people are synchronizing their data across different clients. And that data synchronization problem, getting this working across all clients and makes changing your data format really, really, really hard.
Yeah, it's not easy, and so now we want authenticated encryption, and pretty much no password managers have authenticated encryption just because of this problem. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it, but it's not. And so examining the browser extension, thanks, this is Tavis Ormandy. He found a really bad bug in LastPass last week, and he's looking at more now, more password managers, so I put his face up. And so finally, examining the browser extension. So the part that he found the bug in is in LastPass was their autofill logic. And this is fairly easy to dive into because of Chrome DevTools again. Just right-clicking on a page and clicking Inspect Element, and then you can click, you pop open the developer tools, then you can click Sources, and then Content Scripts, which is right here, and then you can just browse JavaScript, all the JavaScript fill logic. This is 1Password's fill logic, LastPass fill logic right next door. It'll format everything for you. It's really easy to dive in and start reading their code and evaluating it. And so out of this talk, I kind of came up with an idea where if you've ever heard of the EFF, and a lot of people have created scorecards for things like encrypted messengers and whatnot. I want to come up with a password manager scorecard where there is a lot of properties that I define, and password managers either get a green check or a red check, or red. I don't know what that's called actually. A red no. And I think this would be really useful just to have something where non-technical users can kind of come see and get a non-biased way to evaluate a password manager that suits their needs. And I got this idea while I was working on this talk, and so I have not made it, but I want to publish it in the next couple weeks and work on this. So maybe you'll see it. I hope you see it. But I plan on publishing it soon. So does anybody have questions? Sure.
So for those of us who work with users all the time, for those of us who work with users all the time, where will you publish it?
So I have no idea. I wanted to work at Cloudflare. Our PR people have good contacts, and I was hoping to get it somewhere that it might get visibility. I plan on putting it on my Twitter on EJCX _ and Hacker News or something. I don't know. Hacker News and my Twitter are places that you might expect to see it.
So do you know of a personal password manager that syncs where you can run your own server?
Yeah, so Pass, which I mentioned at the very beginning, the website for it is passwordstore.org. It is Git-backed, and it's, if you like GPG and command line, the reason I recommend Pass is because there's kind of been an ecosystem built around it where you can use iOS app to to access your passwords as well. And it uses Git as the back end, and so you can just host a Git server and have your passwords.
Last one.
Oh, Jeff Goldberg from Agile Bits, makers of 1Password. At the risk of pushing self-serving criteria, I was a bit surprised at the extent to which you downplayed the not having the URLs encrypted, particularly if that is actually stored or available to the operators of the system. I mean, now for a long time, I mean, I understand the technical reasons why it's difficult to get those encrypted. And when we made the transition to a new data format in which we actually managed to encrypt that, we have been hammered by our users for making that transition too slowly. So,
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask both Evan and Jeff to join me for dinner, and I will put them on the opposite sides of the table.
No.
And
I don't think you need to.
And anybody who wants to come and watch are more than welcome to do that. But now I will have to say again, thanks, Evan.
Yep, thank you.